It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
Next up, we have Nathan, or Nate, if you will. He says, if you do DoorDash or similar for some extra side cash, does it make sense to do a SEP IRA after getting your full-time employer match? And after you get your match, is it better to prioritize the 401k or the SEP IRA? So it sounds like Nate is beginning to get into the world of self-employed retirement plans, and he's trying to figure out if he should prioritize his own or his employer's, or how he should go about figuring that out.
Yeah, this is man, I think it's pretty common now that people have side hustles. I think it's really cool in this new modern world that you can have a great job, but then you can also go out there if you have some spare time and load up and really fund towards goals, especially if you got big things coming up, housing purchases and so forth. There's now an avenue to do this. So let's talk about. First, I always want to pay respect to the financial order of operations, because the questions that Nate was asking was primarily, he's got an employer plan, but he's now, I guess, is probably doing his taxes, and the accountant says, hey, his self-employment income, you could also do a SEP IRA that would lower your taxes. So it creates a great opportunity. And that's where the question came from. But I want to back up, because that's all in step 6, kind of in maximizing the retirement employer contributions. Because don't forget, when you fund a SEP IRA, that is not funded by you. It's funded by the employer. Well, since you're self-employed, you are the employer and you're funding it. So it all falls into that step 6 of the financial order of operations. I don't want to neglect step number 5. First, this is just more of a review. I'm counting on Nate, who's asking this question, that he's already loaded up the Roth IRA, because the Roth IRA is going to come before maximizing even the employer 401k. But let's just assume the Roth IRA was respected and it's been fully funded. Let's now move to Nate's question, where he's trying to figure out, hey, okay, should I do the employer plan or should I do the SEP IRA? It really depends upon, and this goes back to, and we covered this earlier, what your growth goal and your tax situation is, as well as when you're going to retire and your age. So if somebody's in their 20s, and you have to look at what every dollar could become. Now, SEP IRAs are awesome in the fact that, probably when you're getting your taxes done, your accountant comes to you, or you're in TurboTax or whatever you're using, and it says, hey, you qualify for a SEP IRA, because you can have a 401k with your employer. And if the income source is completely independent of the employer, you could set up a separate SEP IRA for your side hustle as well, and fund that at a percentage of the profit of this endeavor. So you probably could do 20-25% of what you made doing side hustles like DoorDash, as Nate described here. But you have to say, okay, is the tax savings more beneficial to me, or should I take those dollars and load up my employer's plan more? Because maybe, I'm not going to get a tax deduction, especially if I'm funding this in a Roth 401k contribution. But what could that money become down the road? That's what I would probably compare those numbers, that decision making, to. What is my savings rate? Have I reached 25% of my gross income? If you haven't reached 25% of your gross income, then maybe it does, and you're in your 20s, and your tax rate's not over 30%, then I would probably load up that employer Roth 401k option before I do the SEP IRA. But if you find that you're in a higher tax situation, you have done the 25%, I think there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of what the SEP IRA. There will come a point because some of you watching this might have enough income success that you could actually do all the above. I mean, there's nothing that says that you can't have a Roth IRA, especially if you do a backdoor Roth, because your income's high enough that you could do a Roth conversion strategy. You could load up the $20,500 into your employer's plan, and then you could still, because this is completely independent, separate income, you could do a SEP IRA. But if I was trying to prioritize exactly like Nate said, I'd look at my savings rate, I'd take into account my age, and then make sure that if I haven't, and if the tax savings aren't going to be that tremendous, I'd load up that employer Roth 401k before I maximized the SEP IRA, because if you're not in a high tax bracket, I think those dollars and the compounding growth could be even more valuable.